It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of passion and later transformed into anger. It is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. That's not a random quote. That's Lord Krishna warning Arjuna and all of us in the Bhagavad Gita. And when you really think about it, he's not just talking about desire in the obvious sense. He's referring to lust as that constant craving for pleasure, for distraction, and for validation. The thing that pulls you away from your path before you have even realized that you are on it. Now, why start with this? Because if there is one thing that's destroying the focus and progress of an entire generation, it's lust. And not just in the physical sense, but in the way it hijacks your mind. That pull to check your phone again, that urge to scroll endlessly, that addiction to short-term pleasure at the expense of long-term power. But there's a character in anime who has mastered this idea without even needing to preach it. He doesn't talk about it, but he lives it. Every move he makes reflects it. And that character is Ayanokoji Kiyotaka from the anime Classroom of the Elite. Now, if you watch the anime, you know what I'm talking about. Ayanokoji isn't swayed by emotions. He's never chasing attention. When the other students are falling apart in chaos, manipulation, or romance, he just remains calm. And in this video, I want to take you inside that mindset that can change your life, because we are going to talk about the 3 powerful rules. Not the typical delete social media or take cold shower advice that you hear all over YouTube. Instead, these are the rules that Ayanokoji uses to kill lust and stay laser focused in a world full of noise. Rules that come straight from how he moves, thinks and acts, and which you can use right now in your daily life. So if you have ever felt like lust is hijacking your focus, or if you have ever struggled to stay committed to something because your mind keeps pulling you away, then stay with me till the end. Because by the time we are done, you will walk away with a new lens. So let's begin. Rule number 1. Be emotionally ambidextrous. There is a scene in the Classroom of the Elite where Ayanokoji is alone with Kei Karizawa. She is emotional, vulnerable and definitely in fear. Now, most characters in anime or in real life for that matter would respond with instinct like comfort her too much, act out of guilt, or even maybe flirt back just to feel important. But Ayanokoji, he listens, stays still, and says only what is necessary. His tone doesn't change, his eyes don't flicker. You can see he's aware of her feelings, but he doesn't allow them to influence his actions. This is where the idea of being emotionally ambidextrous comes in. Most people operate in extremes. They either allow their emotions to control them entirely, or they bottle everything up, pretending they feel nothing. But both the paths lead to the same outcome, and that is losing control. So to overcome lust and stay laser focused, you have to learn a middle path. You see, lust is not just about sexual desires. It's an overwhelming craving that pulls your attention away from what actually matters. It's that urge to check your phone again even though you just did. It's that need to keep scrolling. It's that temptation to seek validation when you know you should be building discipline. But here's the thing, you don't have to kill emotion to kill lust. You just have to observe it without being dragged by it. And that's exactly what Ayanokoji does. He reads the situation, he understands what Kei wants, but he gives only what is needed to move the mission forward. Nothing more. And that's exactly what you need to start doing. One of the most powerful books that dives deep into this concept is The Chimp Paradox by Steve Peters. He explains that we all have a chimp brain, which is emotional, reactive and craving for quick pleasure, and a human brain which is rational, patient and focused. The key to mastering yourself is not by killing the chimp, but by learning how to manage it. When you feel lust or any intense urge, pause for a few seconds and tell yourself that this is the chimp. This is not me. The moment you label something, you create distance, and in that distance, there's power. In real life, this might look like something as simple as getting a message from someone you are attracted to during your work hours. You can feel the dopamine kick in, you want to respond, maybe even flirt a little, but instead you pause, you breathe and you delay. And you realize that this isn't urgent, this is a bait. And in that moment of delay, you reclaim your control. If you keep practicing this and if you keep closing the gap between feeling and reacting, you'll notice something very powerful. The more you observe lust without feeding it, the weaker it gets. And the more you do that, the stronger your focus becomes. Saying something like, I can feel this but I don't have to follow it, takes the power out of lust. And in that moment, you become like Ayanokoji, aware, composed and laser focused on your purpose. And then comes rule number 2, which is obsess over precision, not pleasure. You know what's crazy? Most people don't even realize how much control they have already handed over to their urges. They wake up, grab their phones, scroll for a hit of dopamine, eat for comfort, talk for validation, and by the time it's noon, half the day is gone. No clear mission, no clarity. Just chasing whatever feels good at that moment. But the truth is, the more you chase pleasure, the more you lose your ability to focus. And that's exactly where Ayanokoji stands out. There's a moment in Classroom of the Elite during the island test arc where everyone is scrambling, forming alliances, betraying each other, trying to figure out how to survive and score points. While the other students were focused on food, comfort, gossip, and relationships, Ayanokoji, on the other hand, was working quietly in the background. He has already calculated the hidden goal behind the test by uncovering the leader of each group and quietly orchestrating moves behind the scenes to ensure Class D's victory. He isn't loud, but he is lethal, and that's not just intelligence, that's his obsession with precision. So let's be real, in today's world, lust isn't just about sexual desires, it's about instant gratification. Lust hides inside your phone, your social feed, your late night cravings. It's disguised as harmless entertainment, but what it actually does is drain your willpower and fracture your attention. You open Instagram to check one post, but 30 minutes later you're watching reels you never asked for. That's not a lack of discipline, that's a lack of design. You see, pleasure is random, it shows up when you let things happen to you. But precision is focus, it only shows up when you design your actions. There's a powerful idea in the book Deep Work by Carl Newport, where he talks about how focus is a skill rather than a talent. The more time you spend in shallow activities like scrolling, texting, or daydreaming, the more your brain becomes wired for distractions. But if you start practicing deep work, like meaningful, undisturbed focus on one task, your brain gets stronger at ignoring noise. The rule is simple. What you practice is what you become. If you constantly practice chasing little pleasures, you will become addicted to them. But if you practice precision, discipline becomes your default. So if you really want to destroy lust, don't try to resist it with willpower alone. Replace it with precision. Build a day so focused, so intentional that there's no space for distractions to sneak in. Cut your dopamine sources and make your attention expensive. Because in the end, focus isn't just about avoiding lust, it's about becoming someone who doesn't need it at all. And then comes rule number 3, that is, transcend the timeline, build power in delay. In a world that's constantly screaming now, instant, one click, there's a different kind of dominance that quietly builds in the shadows. And Ayanokoji is the perfect example of this. See, lust, whether it's for people, attention, or dopamine, always thrives in urgency. That desperate voice in the head that says, I need it right now. But focus, like a real, unstoppable one, thrives in delay. In the space between the urge and the reaction, in that uncomfortable pause where most people break, Ayanokoji builds. And one of the most brilliant examples of this comes from season 3 of the Classroom of the Elite. During the voting test, when the class had to decide who would be expelled, every single student was wrapped up in fear, manipulation, and alliances. They were desperate. Yamauchi, on the other hand, believed he had it all figured out. He assumed Ayanokoji would be easy to read and easy to push around. He tried to turn others against him. But what did Ayanokoji do? He waited, observed, and calculated. Everyone else acted fast because fear and urgency makes people move. But Ayanokoji moved last, and when he did, it was with surgical precision. He exposed Yamauchi's manipulation with evidence and logic so clean, so unemotional that no one could argue with it. And in the end, Yamauchi got expelled and Ayanokoji got the highest votes without even trying to be liked. That's what transcending the timeline looks like. He didn't react because he was provoked. He acted because the time was right. He wasn't moved by lust for attention or power, and therefore he owned both when it mattered the most. And this isn't just anime logic, it's backed by science. In the famous Stanford marshmallow experiment, kids were given a choice. Eat one marshmallow now or wait for 15 minutes and get 2. The ones who could delay gratification, they didn't just get more marshmallows. In fact, they grew up with better careers and healthier relationships. Why? Because they learned to master the moment before the action, and that's where power is born. Now let's bring this to real life. Think about your own day. Do you ever get the urge to check your phone while studying? That is lust. When you're bored or lonely, do you ever feel the temptation to click on something inappropriate? That is lust. That urge to give up your goals just because they're not giving you instant results? That's lust too. But you don't kill lust by fighting it directly. You kill it by outgrowing it. Therefore, to destroy lust and build laser focus, train yourself to pause for pleasure. Here's a small practical exercise that can help you rewire your brain for this. Set a 10-minute timer the next time you're tempted to scroll, click, or chase. Tell yourself that if I still want it after 10 minutes, I will allow it. And here's what happens. Most of the time, the urge fades away. You gain distance from it, and that distance builds mental strength. This is actually backed by James Clear in his book Atomic Habits. He talks about something called the 2-minute rule, which basically means that if you want to build a good habit, make it really easy to start in just 2 minutes. But for bad habits such as chasing quick dopamine or giving into lust, just do the opposite. Make it harder to access or add friction to it, like putting your phone away or blocking that site. The more space you create between you and the impulse, the easier it becomes to stay disciplined. And Ayanokoji is the embodiment of delayed action. When everyone else is reacting emotionally, he's planning. When others are chasing attention, he's directing it. And when people are falling for instant pleasure, he's focused on long-term control. And as a result, if you truly want to kill lust and be laser focused, you have to become a master of delay. Learn to pause before every impulse, and like Ayanokoji, make every move count. And that's the heart of the matter. Lust will always whisper for attention, but you don't have to answer it. Ayanokoji's secret isn't some superpower. It's the choice to pause, to redirect, and to design every moment with purpose. Remember those 3 rules and you'll find yourself moving through life with the same unbreakable focus. It won't happen overnight, but with each small victory over desire, you'll feel your clarity grow as your goals become more clear and clear to you. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.